Let me tell you something about uprising, about the feminine force, which so many still find surprising. The days prior to menstruation, laced with uncertainty and frustration, confused feelings, on the cusp of something big, anticipation. All the while in our self-development, people telling us to be patient. The cusp and the crux of our blossoming into first flower. Petals open just enough so that we may be empowered. Prior to this, almost certainty that we will be devoured. Those waiting on the lines, defining by design when the woman is ready to be coaxed back into line, and if not coaxed, then bashed, battered, or slashed. Confidence crashed. Just as she is on the cusp of awakening to her own being. The link between her and the source divine feminine is clouded beyond seeing. Comments on body, comments on weight, comments on availability, on vulnerable state. Coercion, manipulation, young girls moving forth in trepidation. Unable to realize the extent of their own power, the fruit of their labor through perspiration. Energies distracted. Personal welfare and wellness suffers negation. I remember every word that was said. Every observation of the shape shifting and changing of my body, my being, my mind, my energy. Sexual awakening and awareness stolen from me. Despite all efforts, despite attempts to pull back through multiple timelines, through personal rewilding and ultimate resources to try and find like kind, where by design I could have some fucking space to feel fine. And yet every shift, every breath, every wavering transformation, hormonal disruption, mapped by a community determined towards disruption. Get the filly caught before she bolts the stable. Stamp on her primal impulses before she is able to remand, to reprieve, to defend, to perceive all of the ways in which we try to break her down. we will transform her frown into a simpering smile, ready to be subservient and to present and be concurrent with our definition of what beauty is. How can beauty be congruent with success unless attached to the arm of one who does the graft, and it is our job simply to impress? How can beauty be attached to freedom when we define it as being tied in command to serve another's demand? All these frameworks that describe a beauty which in my mind does not exist, I have often persisted, attempted to resist these tugs and pulls in different directions, feigning formality and affection of my imperfections. Alas, I am alas, and the gift of coming into this world with the power and prowess to birth and create new life is something to be celebrated, not to shun us to the corners and shadows of earth, struggling in deprivation and strife. Somehow this notion or this strand that I can only survive if I'm attached to the arm of a man come into breath and being, because there is the third eye and the realm between which I have always been seeing, feeling, believing, a space which many men return to in hope of gleaning a little truth about themselves. I have said it before and I will say it again. If we are a living body temple, do not come to desecrate or defecate or try to experience the self through another. We can be reflections, yes, to one another, but we must hold true and steadfast in our ethics and our moral principles, that we aim to do no harm. I, like many others, have fallen for false charms. Whether we knew they were promises made under moonlight or not, the wounds they have caused ne'er forgot. Attempts to bind through blood, attempts to bind through time, attempts to extract energy and to entwine with mine. In truth, the power that lies within is sovereign. In truth, the power that resides within me is free. In truth, the power that exists in my energy persists. In truth, the love that holds me is above, beyond, and yet also of me. I do not seek, I do not need, I do not want, I do not care for this notion of an alternate energy to match me so that I may be a pair, when the conceptualization and framework of which has come from a fragment of a system through which hierarchy persists. I am whole, I am sovereign, I am open, I am free. I am the truth which decides to express itself involuntarily. So if of a moment, of a notion, of an hour, I make a decision to share my essence, my love, my power, it is in service to something greater. It is in notion to a place, not from servitude, but of a blessing which unfolds and opens and awakens and intersects. The dance with opposition of either sex. For the concepts of gender have been unfairly defined by design to create a hierarchical framework through which to divine. The only elements through which I unconditionally trust are the wildness and the untamable. That is true freedom. I must touch into these landscapes to find solace, peace, fortitude, and home, not escape. And whilst these threads and angles and spaces are warped and determined as access to places only afforded to those who are wealthy, by definition of how much is in one's purse, I say unto you, we have consumed the narrative that we are part of the curse, that every man is not entitled to sing freely in verse in celebration of the life which holds us, and an acknowledgement of our united birth and death. For I assure you, no matter your lineage, your patronage, your name, or your estate, you will return to the earth, same as I or any other, innate, a truth from which we cannot escape. Certain death is absolute and is our fate. So just wait. As all things must die, so too must the corrupt systems from which we suffer fall by.